Hi guys, this is Mattman Productions here. This is going to be the part 2 video to the video that I made yesterday, which was the states part 1. So this video we are going to be doing the last 30 states and we are going to finish up the states for good. We're just going to finish them up. And I'm going to be going a little faster in this video because it's going to be longer. And I'm also going to do something new. I'm just going to do all of the states in one category first so it's easier, and then I'm going to move on to the next category. So, by popular demand, the first category is the Midwest. Let's just jump into it. Alright, first state is going to be Michigan. Michigan, you got lucky. You are the first state in the part 2 of these states. Capital is Lansing, but the largest city is Detroit. This state is sort of falling apart. There's a lot of economic turmoil. It has cities like Saginaw, Grand Rapids, Kalamazoo, Lansing itself. But Detroit, the big elephant in the room, is losing even more money. It's like one of the worst cities in America in terms of losing money. And it has some other pretty bad cities as well. Next state, Ohio. Ohio is a Midwestern state. It's a Rust Belt state, just like its fellow friend Michigan. Actually, not friend Michigan. They actually fought a war known as the Toledo War over the city of Toledo. The capital is Columbus, and it's also the largest city. And they have a lot of cities that are losing people too, like Toledo and Cleveland and other cities along the Lake Erie coast. But central Ohio, like Columbus area and South Ohio, is pretty good and is doing fine. Same thing with Cincinnati and Dayton and other cities like that. And that brings us to the next state, which is Iowa, the corn capital. So I once heard a quote from this guy who said that I heard once that there was virtual reality, that in 20 years they were going to make virtual reality about places all over the United States. And, however, there will never be virtual reality on Iowa. Unless corn watching robots graze corn becomes a popular sport in 2190, there will never be virtual reality about Iowa. Iowa is a flyover state. That's a part of Iowa's identity. It's a state where you can just fly over it and find these pastures of endless farmland. And because of that, Iowa is also one of those "are we there yet" states. There's going to be a lot of other states in this prairie area in this category as well. Now, finally, we have our final Midwestern state, which is Missouri. And Missouri is a state that is very important. Some people say it's not a Midwestern state. Some people would say it's a southern state because it was a slave state back in the time of the Civil War. But I say it's a Midwestern state, and I think a lot of people in the northern parts of the state, and maybe even the western parts of the state, would agree that this is a Midwestern state. I mean, you could also argue that it's a center state, same thing with Iowa, because it's very close to the center of the nation. But I would concur and say that it is actually a Midwestern state. Whatever state it is, Midwestern, prairie, southern, whatever, the capital is Jefferson City, but the largest city is actually Kansas City. Most people think it's St. Louis, but it's actually Kansas City. Kansas City is actually in Missouri, not Kansas. And part of it is in Kansas, but only a little tiny, small, insignificant part. You also have some other cities like Springfield and Columbia, which are pretty big and cool cities too. And I also forgot to mention that in the Iowa part, that the capital of Iowa is Des Moines. Next category is going to be the Mid-Atlantic states. We're going to finish off the Mid-Atlantic states, and we are going fast. So let's start with Pennsylvania, the Liberty State. I think that's what it's called. The capital of Pennsylvania is Harrisburg. Harrisburg is not the largest city in the state, but it is a pretty cool place. The largest city, and a really cool place in Pennsylvania, is Philadelphia, which has the Liberty Bell, which is, I think, and I assume why it's called the Liberty State. So Pennsylvania is a really cool place. It was the original capital of the United States before it was switched to Washington, D.C., and Philadelphia used to be the old capital of the United States. I think I just mentioned that, actually. It used to be one of the more important cities, but New York recently has kind of eclipsed it. This is like the second video where I've drinking something during the filming. Next state is Delaware, the quote-unquote boringest state, ranked by Stately.com as the boringest state. I think that the state is far from boring. They have some cool stuff. The largest city is Wilmington, but the capital is Dover, which is the second largest city. They have some other places too. They touch the Delaware Bay, touching the Delaware River, and fun fact, you probably didn't know this, by the way, they had a Swedish settlement within the states. And then, now because of that, and now that you know that, I think I can say, I just learned something. And I can cue the more you know graph. Okay, next state. Okay, next state. This is the final Mid-Atlantic state, New Jersey, New York's little twin brother that has been fighting with New York for centuries. The capital is Trenton, but the largest city is Newark, which is rated as one of the worst cities in America. And unlike Delaware, I can't say the same thing about Newark, New Jersey. They also have Camden, New Jersey, and I think that it's not the best art, but Atlantic City's pretty cool. New Jersey also has some nice areas in the Palisades, but other than that, the state is kind of losing economic greatness. It's sort of become more of a, like one of those states that's sort of just seen as like trying to be New York, but it's not. Same thing with Toronto, Canada. Maybe my next video should do like Canadian provinces or something. That would be cool. What do you think, my loyal subscriber? Okay, great. Next state, this is the next category. This is going to be a new category, the southern states. So we're going to be covering the southern states. And just so you know, I classify Kentucky as a southern state, not a mountain state. Same thing with Tennessee, because in my opinion, the term mountain state is far too generic. So we're actually going to start with Kentucky, even though, because it did allow slavery. Now, Missouri, Maryland, Virginia, and Delaware allowed slavery as well, but the latter two had become unionized by the time of the Civil War. Virginia, we already talked about in the last video, and we also talked about Missouri earlier in this video as well. The capital of Kentucky is Frankfort, but the largest city is Louisville. It's pronounced Louisville, not Louisville, not Louisville. And that is Kentucky. They have some other large cities like Pacutica, I think that's how you say it, or Lexington, Kentucky. And they have the Kentucky Derby, one of the most viewed and watched sporting events in the United States of America. Next state, we have North Carolina. Capital, Raleigh. Largest city, Charlotte. Charlotte is the largest city, and it's sort of the hub of North Carolina. This is sort of like another one of those states that's like growing. It's like one of those growing states that sort of popped up and made a name for itself on the map. This is like this is like the opposite of Virginia. Like Virginia is like a big state for fishing and historic stuff, but North Carolina is like the tech like startup place where a lot of tech startups are happening. And I think that's really cool. It seems like a nice place. I've never been there, but it seems like a nice place. They touch the Atlantic Ocean. They have the Albemarle and Pamlico Sounds, which are in the coastal parts. And they have these long sandbanks, which is actually, one of them is actually where the Wright brothers launched the first plane. And it's actually known for the place where the Wright brothers launched the first plane in history. So North Carolina got some cool aviation history stuff going on, which is pretty cool, I have to say. That is a horrible plane. I am going to erase this drawing from the face of the earth. You know, I should sell some merchandise that says, I want to erase this drawing from the face of the earth, because it seems like I say that a lot. Okay, next state, Tennessee. Unfortunately, the place where Martin Luther King was assassinated, but we gotta talk about that for another video on civil rights, which it might actually surpass the Canada video. It's either civil rights or Canada for the next one. I don't know. I just have to decide. But the capital of Tennessee is Nashville. And there's actually an independence movement in eastern Tennessee known as Franklin, where they wish to secede from Tennessee. Tennessee is known as the Bluegrass State. A lot of famous musicians came from here. They also have Memphis, which is a city in southern Tennessee. It's not the largest city. Nashville has actually surpassed it in recent years. But Memphis used to be a very cultural city, and it used to be a very jazzy city. Also, Elvis and Elvis comes from here, as well as Al Gore, which is pretty cool. So that is where I think we can cap off Tennessee and move on to the next southern state. Alabama, capital Montgomery, largest city Birmingham. Birmingham and the rest of Alabama are a very black state, also very conservative state. Most of the population of Alabama is actually black. Most of it is, which is pretty cool. They used to have a lot of Native American reservations, but not so much anymore, because most of the reservation people got deported to Oklahoma, which is in the Trail of Tears, which is sort of sad. I might make a video about that. There's a lot of stuff that I can maybe make a video on, but I just have to think about it. They might be my next history videos. But other than that, Alabama is like one of those places where you can get like that real southern grill, and you can get like a real good southern grill. They have one of the shortest coastlines in the Americas. All right, next, the big guy, Florida. This state's sort of in the same category as North Carolina, like one of those states that just one of those states that just like is growing. It's like one of the growing states, like North Carolina, Florida. Those are the growing states that are sort of like one of the growing states. The capital is, I keep saying growing states. Yeah. Growing states. The capital is Tallahassee. The largest city is sort of disputed between Jacksonville and Miami. Miami has a larger metropolitan area, but Jacksonville is larger if you count just the city proper. Florida is also home to NASA's launch sites in Brevard County, so that's why there's this little space picture right here. Let's see some of the other pictures. That doesn't really matter. Oh, cod, like Cape Cod. That was in my Columbus video about cod. Okay, cod. Let's go to Cape Cod. Let's get some cod. This is like the funniest video I've ever made. I think this one's gonna get a lot of views. Okay, Florida also has a huge Cuban population. Most of the people live in the north, but a few people live in the south. Most of the people who live in the south live in Miami. They have Orlando, which has Disneyland. Yes, the guy with the mouse and the guy with the mouse who talks, and other kids like him, and he's pretty cool. And Disneyland is sort of cool, but they've made some pretty bad movies, but they're okay and they're classics. So that just gives them expert revitalization. Okay, let's get back to the video. And they also have, what did I say? Very large Cuban population, Disneyland, all that other good stuff. Okay, let's move on to the next states. Arkansas, capital Little Rock, and the largest city, and pretty much the only major city in Arkansas is also Little Rock. And Little Rock, Arkansas, most of the population is also black, and it has one of the highest black populations in the U.S., with like 60% of the people being black, which is pretty cool. They were also an important stop in the civil rights movement. Let's go with civil rights, baby. And that is really good, and all that stuff about the civil rights movement. I said earlier in the video I was going to make another video about that in the future, probably. So Little Rock has like a lot of, this is called the, I think like the Opportunity State or something like that. I think it's, actually no, it's the Land of Opportunity. The Land of Opportunity, that's what Arkansas is. However, unfortunately, there's not that much opportunity in Arkansas. Hold on. Oh, never mind. I guess we'll just do that in the next section. I'm going to take like a little intermission, but that's going to be in a sec. Little Rock, Arkansas has some cool stuff in it. And Arkansas also is the state with the highest divorce rate, unfortunately. But here's a pro. It does have the highest doggo ownership out of any state. So that is pretty good news. But then again, you can like get divorced with your dog. Like which side does the dog go to? I don't know. Let's get back up to the video again. Last southern state. I know I'm not counting Texas as a southern state because I think Texas deserves its own category just because of the importance of Texas. Last southern state is Louisiana. And Louisiana is, I've actually been here. It's a really cool state. It has like a lot of jazz musicians. Another important stop in the civil rights movement, which I am going to make a video about, like I've said like 10,000 times in this video already. Capital is Baton Rouge, but the largest city is New Orleans, or Nolans, as the people call it there. That actually sounds like it's like an echo of New Orleans, like Nolans. Okay, Nolans. Let's go down to Nolans and figure out more about Louisiana. They have an amazing Acadian culture, which is really cool, and they have a lot of like Cajun people. They have like a thick accent. I don't know how to impersonate it. And it's one of the states that I really want to go back to. They were hit hard by Katrina though. Okay, now that I'm done with the southern states, we're gonna take like a 1 minute intermission, maybe 2 minutes, so I can just go and do stuff. So I'm gonna be off camera here, but while I'm off camera, we have little man here to entertain you and help you figure out some stuff about this video. So he's like, hi, and I'm gonna be like, bye.